Welcome back to the mini live challenge with me, Lindsay Setchell, on day 112. And I'm hoping, crossing my fingers, that this connection is way better because we've now got an Ethernet cable. I'm sat in a cupboard, Ethernet. I'm sat in a cupboard and the speed is doubled. So we're praying. It's such a lovely house where we are near Bowie in Maryland, where we're staying because we've got our training camp and our workshop coming up. But the internet connection was rubbish these last couple of days. So I'm hoping, crossing fingers. Right, let's go live on Instagram. Going live. Yes, we're live on Instagram. Hello, everybody on Instagram. Okay, so today what we're going to talk about is a post that we put up a few days ago, and something that's very much in my head at the moment, because I even this morning, even today, yesterday, already a few this week, I have been doing rebalancing of horses' feet with people all over the world. Gary the same too. And we're at the moment, we seem to be inundated with 1 foot laminitis, where, I mean, we do have an awful lot of horses obviously with us at the moment that are suffering in 2 feet, 3 feet, 4 feet, because they're all over the place. And when you start looking at the data and the measurements, you can see how clearly these horses have completely gone out of balance, and it's all been blamed on diet, etc. But I specifically want to talk to you about the epidemic of 1 foot laminitis. Why do we only ever get it in, or not only ever, but why is it that some horses only get it in the 1 foot? How can that be? When it's a metabolic systemic issue, they say. But it isn't, is it? This is all about hoof balance. So that's what we're going to talk about today. We've got loads of people coming in already. So before we get started into it, I want to hear your thoughts, because we, like I said, the other day we shared a post about our 1 foot laminitis epidemic that's around the world. And I want you to think about it. Have you ever noticed that when horses have laminitis, it's often in 1 foot worse than the other? In other words, P3 rotation, when you get them x-rayed, is often in 1 foot worse than the other. In 1 foot, the heels are higher. 1 foot, the toe's been chopped off a little bit more in the attempt to chase that laminitis down, because you're never going to do that, of course. And what have you observed in your own horses or in others with laminitis, or in fact, just generally trimming? Now, if you're doing maintenance trims and you've had a horse that's had no problems, crikey, they're rarer and rarer these days, aren't they? But if you've had a horse that's come right through from birth, stayed barefoot, been trimmed, correctly balanced all its life, it's easy. You look at their feet, you're like, wow, look at these feet. They basically look the same. There might be a slight deviation of a bit of a flare on one than the other, but the heels are the same height, everything's the same length, everything's the same width, it's all the same, even with the hind feet. The hind feet are a pair, the front feet are a pair. That's how Mother Nature designed it. She didn't design different size bones in the fronts and different size bones in the back. And yet, when we look at our horses, most of the time horses that are suffering from lameness, pathology, laminitis, you look at the data, you look at their feet, you look at their heels. It's different, and it shouldn't be. And why is that? Do you think that metabolic dysfunction somehow caused those heels to grow, or somehow had some strange woo-woo and took over the trimmer while he was trimming, or she was trimming, and made them pick up their rasp and nippers and just chop the toe off? What do you think happened? So that's what we're going to talk about today. So have you experienced 1 foot laminitis, and what do you think is the cause? I think it's probably obvious, isn't it? And that's what we're going to talk about today. Why does it seem to affect 1 foot more than the other? If everything we're hearing out there, and have been for decades, yawn, the same old rhetoric, the same old narrative, it's that DDFT pulling P3 through the capsule when that laminae fails and everything goes whoo, it can't do it. It's an absolute physical impossibility. It's all to do with incorrect, imbalanced hoof care, but we're going to talk about that today. All right, so we're going to challenge that traditional thinking around this condition. And because the world has simply been telling us for years, and owners for years, it's systemic and metabolic. So you hear people on our posts all the time. They're coming through all the time. And they're going, no, you're wrong. That's wrong. It's dangerous. You're giving out dangerous misinformation. It's wrong. It's wrong. Stop saying that. Horses are doing really bad on grass, etc. Oh, that's true. That there is no doubt about it, that you've got to get the diet right. You've got to get the movement right, everything to make your horse healthy. But that doesn't cause the problems you're seeing in the foot that you think it's causing. Because most people that come on and say that are not critically able to assess the hoof capsule, even that is even slightly off. Most people are just not able to do that. So that's what we're going to talk about today. So before we do that, I want to say hello. Oh, crikey, we got loads coming in on Instagram already. We've got Helena, we got Kathy Yorkshire Lass is here, Sanja's here, Billy Bilucky's here, Viv's here. Hello, my lovely. Zoe Bentley's here. Viv says good morning to you all. Good morning. Good morning over to you in New Zealand. Hayat Khan Industries has joined. Hello. How are you, ma'am? I'm doing well, thank you. It's nice to have you here. Right, let's have a look at everybody else who's on YouTube and Facebook. Quickly go through you. Margita's here. Top of the shop again, Margita. Hello. Claire Collins is here. Woohoo! I made a mini. Brilliant. Hello, evening, everyone. She says, Foxy's here. I found it. Hi, folks. She says, Ulrika's here. Hi, all. Still in. How are we doing so far? Is the internet holding up? Give us a thumbs up if everything is going fine. You can hear me all right. I'm not some fuzzy, blurry apparition in the background. Sherry's here. Hi. Camilla's here. Good evening. Alex is here. Hello, hello. Georgie's here. I love this. I love it. Don't you love it? I love it because it doesn't matter where I am. I've got you all with me. That's what it feels like. It feels amazing. Suzanne Scheid's here. Big marigold hand. Gary here says, so far, so good. They've gone off. Gary, Asher, and Tim have left me here in the cupboard. Feel like Harry Potter. And they've gone off. I wish I was a wizard. I wish I was a wizard. People think I might be a bit of a witch, but I'm not really. I just wish I was a wizard. So I could go, pa-chung. And you know, one of those, or like Men in Black, where I could get one of those torches and go, what did they call them in Men in Black? Where they held them up and your memory was wiped. Can we just do that? Can we start again? Can we just wipe the memory of all this traditional nonsense and start again in Logic Land? In Logic Land, where we're looking at the actual balance of the foot. So hard, isn't it? Anyway, Gary's off with Tim and Asha. They've gone over to our lovely Lynn. She's one of our second year students now. And she's hosting the training camp for our pros who are coming in from Canada and all around America. They're coming in. Tomorrow we start, Monday to Friday, and then back to back, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, we've got our first US workshop, which for owners. And it goes on for 3 days. They all do. And then from then, that's in Maryland, in Bowie, at the same place as we're doing the training camp. And then from there, we're heading up to Slippery Rock for another 3 days, and then into Canada for 2 more venues for another 6 days, of course. Okay, so it's all going well so far. Megan's here. Hi, glad you're having a fun time on your travels. It's been great. It's so hot. I was like, it's hot in France. I can cope. No, it's much hotter here. It's humid. We've just gone and bought. We've had Amazon delivers in the same day here. In the middle of France, that doesn't happen. Amazon delivers in the same day. It's amazing. Crap internet, but Amazon in their funny little electric van. I love it. And we've had the Ethernet cable delivered today, and our wet towels. They're special towels that you get wet, put around your neck, and keep around your neck all day. I'll be doing that all day tomorrow because it's really hot. Jenny says, hello. Foxy says, got you on YouTube too. Excellent. Vivian's here. Hello, everyone. Just listening while I'm in the car. Choo-choo. No, that's a train. Angela says, hi. Looking forward to Linwood in a few weeks. Not long now. It'll go fly for us. You lot will be like that. Come on. Get on with it. Hurry up time. And I'll be going slow down time. It's just going too fast. Sandra's here from Czech. Hello, hello. Ali Halfpenny's here. Jill's here. Suzanne Hughes is here. Hi, everyone from sunny West Wales. Oh, I feel quite a long way away from you now, Susan. I don't feel that far away from you when I'm in France, but now I feel a long way away from Wales. Margita says, now that you mention it, yes, I never thought about that. Malin's here. Hey, Alex says, absolutely seeing deviations on feet. Foxy says, I've seen it in the forefoot, but never in one. Maybe it's worse in one. Yeah, I get that. Megan says, I wonder would there be less 1 foot laminitis if we had more ambidextrous trimmers? You're on it. Don't take my thunder, Megan. That's what I'm going to talk about in a minute. You're on it, girl. Foxy says, that's not true. Metacarpals are different to metatarsals. I'm not arguing. I'm just saying. Lindsay says hi. Georgie gives the thumbs up. Good. That means you can all hear me. Therese says, loved yesterday's mini live, even though it was, that's amazing. I always find that fascinating how you love it, even though I had God knows how many dropouts and it was as fuzzy as anything. But anyway, thank you for that. It's wonderful. Jessie, hello, Potty. It's good to see you, girl. Jade says hello. Love some of your comments on internet, Jade. Keep it up. Loving it. And everybody else as well. But Jade's like what we might say, rat up a drain pipe. Go for it, Jade. You're doing really well. Karen's also here from Wales. Hello. Jenny says, it may be the right front mostly affected by this mystic laminitis just affecting 1 foot. Well, it's funny that, because the right fore is very, very common. Look at me, I'm steaming up. Can you see me? It's because I'm in the cupboard, Harry. Kizzy says, Kath here, totally, this was my mare, TIT. She's not being rude. She's not being rude. She's just saying trimmer-induced tilt. It's got 3 grades. And if it got that bad, it would have been tick grade 3. Angela's here. Hi. Bethan says, just got in from poo picking, listening in the shower in my fancy Bluetooth shower speaker. That's brilliant. I love it. Kay Ellison gives her 4 hearts. Foxy says, it is not misinformation. Diet makes the terrible ideas on P3 rotation worse. Absolutely. Margita says, most horses I saw with laminitis, they didn't think about the trim. They put them in the stable and many fed straw. Of course. Of course. And isn't it funny? Well, it's not funny. It's not funny at all. But millions of pounds has been spent on taxpayers' money. Millions on peer-reviewed research with really proper top kit in these labs. And yet they started their research here. And there, going back up that way, is where they should have started and they never did. And so they've missed over 3/4, probably, I think. No, over 2/3 of the story is what they've missed. Sherry says, where did you say the US classes were? I'm in Arkansas. Oh, God, I don't know the distances, but we've got Bowie in Maryland. That's near Washington, D.C. We have got Slippery Rock, that's at the university in Pennsylvania. And then we go up to Canada, near Linwood, which is near Toronto, and then Calgary. I feel like a right jet setter. It's incredible. Jade, yes. Suki says, are horses mainly right-footed like humans? Well, this is a thing that people often say, but it's not the horse that has, and we always look to the horse. We look to the horse for all these answers, don't we? We look to the horse for the metabolic. We look to the horse because the feet are failing. We look to the horse because the laminae fail. We look to the horse. We look to the horse. We look to the horse. The horse is absolutely fine doing what it does, stretching 1 foot out more than the other when it grazes, if it likes to do that. Often horses are domestic horses, will bend easier on one side, especially if you've learnt how to circle horses properly and get them to be balanced and get them to be able to bend equally on one side, on both sides. You'll find that many horses end up being tighter on one side with their muscles and looser on the other side, or more able to bend on the tighter side, because they're bending in. And then when you try and ask them to bend out, they can't, because they can't stretch those muscles. It doesn't feel as easy. So our job is to try and get these horses to be as balanced as possible, especially before we ride them. And that's a long-term thing. And that's what tracks are really good, because they don't go around the same way all the time. They do change and go around the other way too. And when you see horses in the wild, when they're running, or even horses that are on massive, massive acreage, and you see them running, they'll run away and you'll see them bob their head, because obviously their eyes on the side of the head. So they're bobbing their head just slightly to the left and right as they're running. So they're slightly moving like this as they're running along. And all of those things keep them balanced, and balance is important, but that's not what causes 1 foot laminitis. So let's get into it. Let's have a look at the things that we're going to talk about today. So the mystery, that is 1 foot laminitis, because we've all seen it. We've seen it in the Phoenix group. We've seen people come in and they've got feet like this. Sometimes people call it high-low syndrome. Sometimes, and don't get this mixed up with club foot, but club foot is a very mixed idea of what a club foot is as well. You go to you're a new hoof care professional, me, right? And I turn up or rather I'm not new, but I turn up at a new client and they say to me, my horse has got a club foot. Like they've said to every vet, every person, every body worker, every physio, ever, every friend, every trainer, and everybody goes, oh, your horse has got a club foot. Do you know what the hoof care professional does? Trim them like they've got a club foot. And so the club foot gets worse. It's all about imbalances. And they weren't born with club feet, and people will tell you they are. They're not. They're not born with club feet. It becomes a thing, but we're not talking about that today. So we're talking about 1 foot laminitis. This is the classic picture we've been shown in laminitis as a systemic metabolic dysfunction, something that suddenly affects the whole hoof. Usually, obviously, because it's systemic, so it's usually due to dietary imbalances or toxins, or they also talk about supporting limb laminitis, endocrinopathic, sepsis, all of those things. It's all the horse's fault. I hope you're with me here. It's still the horse's fault at this point. The horse couldn't cope with the diet it was eating, and so therefore the feet fell apart. And that's what we've all been told for decades. But how does that fit when it's only in 1 foot? What is that telling us? Because if we break it down and we have 2 horses, and this is what we put in the post, you have 2 horses and they've got the same diagnosis, laminitis, and the same foot is wrecked, the right fore. Why hasn't the left fore got wrecked as well? This is a systemic problem, we're told. It isn't, but we're told that it is. And so how come it happens in 1 foot? So some people might say, is it, like Suki said, is it because the horse is right-footed or favors 1 foot more than the other? Is it because there's more weight therefore put into that foot? Is it because? No, it's because the human being is not consistent. What's so very interesting is that the right fore 1 foot laminitis is so incredibly common, more so than the left. Yes, we see it in the left. Yes, we see it in 1 hind foot sometimes, crazily. But it's more prevalent in the right. Why? Well, because of us. It's not quite as strange as it seems. It's not coming from inside the horse. It's not coming from the grass that they ate. It's not a good idea for them to be eating loads of grass, but it's not coming from that. And people will be ripping their hair out now going, please, please don't say that. Well, it's okay. You carry on saying that and you'll never fix laminitis ever, 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 because you've been saying it for decades and you've not got anywhere, have you? There's been books written on it, peer-reviewed papers written on it, and you're still no closer to fixing it. And you never will, because of the one variable you're not looking at: human hands. So what do we have? What is going on in that right fore? We'll call it a right fore for today because that's the most common. You're getting high jammed up heels. You're getting the dorsal wall, that's the front wall of the hoof, separating away from P3. You've got hoof care professionals who are seeing the distortion happen before their very eyes and then chase down that hoof pastern axis to make everything in line. Well, that's not an easy task to do if you've got a foot that's starting to do this. Well, one of the things you can do is keep jamming up the heels and keep taking off the toe, and then it makes it all look very pretty from the outside, because the world has been told that P3 can independently move inside the hoof capsule, which it absolutely can't. It can't before laminitis and it can't after laminitis. And laminitis only still is in my vocabulary simply because when P3 is being torn away from its hoof, or the hoof wall is not able to follow the dorsal wall, it's lost its guide, then those laminae and all the other tissues are going to become inflamed. And that's the only reason that I will still use the word laminitis. Other than that, it does not mean to me what it means to everybody else, and it doesn't mean to an awful lot of you now. So we start taking the toe off, we start losing vertical depth, we start losing sole depth, and then P3, we x-ray, and then P3 appears rotated. Not because, and just in one foot, not because of the systemic dysfunction, which should have affected all 4 feet. No, it was because the hoof capsule rotated it, because it's still connected, because it's also still connected to its lateral cartilages. It's all still connected to the coronary band. All of these things are still connected. So it's in the 1 foot. If it was systemic, it would affect all 4 feet, or at least surely both front feet. The same? No, completely different. So it doesn't make sense. And at that point then, that should have stopped all the researchers right in their tracks and gone, well, that's interesting, isn't it? But what are we going to do about that? So why is it that right 4? Well, it's a repeat offender because humans are handed, basically. I'm right-handed, and I can tell you I have trimmed thousands of horses' feet, thousands of them. And without a shadow of a doubt, the most tiring foot is the right hind, because I don't go around the clock. We go left fore, left hind, right hind, and it's the last foot you do. So it's actually quite tiring by the time you get to that. But the right fore is the one, because of my right arm being jammed up against the horse here, which is my stronger arm. This is my guiding hand. I couldn't do without this hand, because this is a guide. It holds the foot, it guides the knife, it does all of that. But this is the hand that is my most dominant hand in terms of holding the tools. And if I can't move myself easily here, then I'm going to find that a little bit difficult. If I've got the horse's foot between my legs, I'm going to find it harder here than if I'm on the left fore and the horse's foot, oh, look, I've got nothing next to me now on the left fore, the horse is here. And I can go for it. But on this side, when I've got the right fore between my legs, I'm a bit jammed up. And that's even if I can manage to get the horse's foot between my legs. What happens if I can't do that? Because the horse is unable to balance very well. It's poorly, as in it's got poorly feet and I'm trying to help it, or it's arthritic, it's old. Sometimes old horses are absolutely fine. Most, in fact, it's just the arthritic ones. You don't have to be old to be arthritic if you've suffered from imbalanced hoof care for years of your life. So I might have to resort to one-handed trimming. Well, when I'm this side, the left-hand side of the horse, I can do this. La, la, la. It's all very good. Hello, I can trim you. But when I'm over the other side, that then gets a little bit awkward, because I've got to somehow get myself all the way around to somehow manage to do this with, can you see me? With the horse's foot. So it's tricky. Now, if you're ambidextrous, as Foxy put it, I think it was Foxy, if you're ambidextrous and you could be doing this with your left hand, I can't do that, and most can't. And I'll tell you something else, when you're one-handed trimming, you can't get balance easy. If I can get a horse's foot between my legs, I can get that foot trimmed anything really around about 5 minutes, really, really quick, because it's very quick. You get the balance fast. It's not the same when you're doing it one-handed. So we are dominant on one side, and the most dominant handed dominant hand for humans is the right, not the left. Of course, there are millions of people that are left-handed, but the most dominant is the right. And all the students that we've only had a very, very small number out of 80 plus students that have already gone through the school that are actually left-handed. Not many, well under 10. And so that goes to show you that there's a problem with that. And that's going to reflect in what we see in the horses. So when we're trimming, we're often imbalanced. And therefore, it's harder to follow the anatomical constants. It's therefore harder to trim. The horse gets more agitated because you're in a more difficult position. And it's what we teach, what Gary and I and Asher and everybody else and that we teach the students to do is become not ambidextrous in their hands, if you like, but their body, just like I was talking about with the horses, getting them to bend the same on both sides and be fluid on both sides. You have to be able to find positions when you're trimming the horse that means you are not compromised at all when you're trimming on both sides of the feet. It's not easy. It really isn't. But that's something we train our students to do. And we watch them and we do trim tutorials with them over every module. And we're watching how they, what we call sequence, how they get in there and move their bodies. And it's really interesting how difficult they find it on one side from the next. So it's all about us becoming more balanced between us. So if trimming isn't consistent, therefore, we are going to trim feet differently. And then people trim, boom, trim that foot, trim the hind feet, and then bye, thank you very much, off to my next client, or I'm knackered, I've had enough of that, I'm going. Nobody stops and goes, well, I just photograph those feet. Now, then I'm going to assess those feet critically and just see whether I actually left more heel on that right foot than I did on the left. And then whether I took more toe on that foot than I did on the left. I wonder whether I kept it the same. Nobody does. Be off to the next foot and off to the next foot. So rare do people take photographs. And I've hammered that home to you. You have to take photographs pre and post trim, please. It's so important. If you've got a hoof care professional, don't leave it to them. Our hoof care professionals are trained to take photographs at most trims, especially when we're rehabbing horses. But it's very important for you to do it as well. Okay. And something else I want to mention is that heel to toe balance. The moment that you stop getting those heels on the right foot and the left foot the same, that's when the dorsopalmar balance begins to go out of whack. And when they start to take more toe, more sole, dig right into that sole, and oftentimes you'll find farriers because they want a flat surface. And obviously I'm not just picking on farriers, this is trimmers too. But particularly farriers, when they want a flat surface, they want to put the shoe on, and they don't bring the heels all the way back because they want the heels to come up, and then they make the foot flat. But in order to bring their toe back, they go really quite hard into the sole. You watch them trim. They will take their knives and they will go at the sole, and then they will feel the sole. But that's okay, because if it feels a bit thin to them, well, they're going to put a shoe on and probably put dim material on and pads, so the horse isn't going to feel it anyway. That's their thinking. So the dorsopalmar balance starts to go off as that toe pillar is removed quite early on in that horse's hoof care journey. And they've got to have their feet, domestic horses, done every, 6 weeks at a minimum for the rest of their lives. And do you think that 6 weeks for the rest of a horse's life, until it gets to the age of 25 and 26 and 30, if it's lucky, is going to stay consistent? I think we're all having a bit of a laugh if we do. And so there's your answer. There is your answer right there of all the awful problems that horses are suffering with their feet. And we blame the horse, we blame the owner, we blamed everything except the people holding the tools. I am fully responsible for what is going on in that horse's balance. And if I don't get it right, there's going to be stretch. I can go to a horse and there is stretch, and it might take me a long time to get that horse to grow it out because we've lacked vertical depth, but I certainly don't want to be causing it. And that's very, very important. But I'm very super critically aware of what the feet look like when I leave them. And so too are our students, our pros, and everybody else that we get involved with, or at least that's what we're trying to do. So if we throw that entire foot out of balance, we are not only going to get the dorsopalmar angle, that's the heel, that's the well, dorso toe to heel, but we call it the heel to toe. You're not only going to get that plane wrong, you're also going to likely get the mediolateral plane wrong as well. So that horse has got a multitude of issues going on. And is there any wonder there is an increase and a high prevalence of navicular syndrome when the whole podotrochlear apparatus becomes affected, all down to balance? People can't critically assess it. So it's the hoof capsule that's getting manipulated. It really isn't anything else. All right, so let's get and do some more shout outs. We have got Diddy's joined, Lucita has joined, Hit Meme has joined, and I can't ever say the Instagram ones, it drives me mad. Susie Pemberton's here, hello. Thomas Oliver Dyson says, hi Lindsay, please could you message me explaining why we have an epidemic of one-footed lambing? Lammy, I'm going to miss this live and I don't want to miss the content, but you're just about to board a plane. Thank you in advance, Tom. Tom, it's going to be available on YouTube. We'll put it up in the Phoenix group. I hope you're in there, and I'm sure you are. You'll get the link. You can watch it back. Caroline's here. Hello, one of our admins. Hi from Portugal. Jeanette's here. Only just saw the notification on my phone. But it's good to have you with us. Foxy says, I can see trimmer-induced thingy because it's logical for the trimmer to have a hand in it, and it probably follows that the right front is where they start and are most enthusiastic on. You potentially, some trimmers go round the clock and start with them. A lot go round the clock. What do I mean by that? Left fore, left hind, right fore. We don't do it that way. We get the front feet balanced, then we go to the back feet. But people do, because owners do that. Owners, when they're picking their horse's feet out, will pick up the left fore and then go round the clock. Sometimes they start with the right. It's usual that they start with the left. It doesn't matter which one you start with. If you do start with the left and you go around the clock, then you've got a double whammy problem with that right fore, because you're knackered now. You're tired. It's the last foot. You've had enough. The horse has been pulling their feet around, and you've got to try and do that right fore, which is your hardest foot anyway. So those are your problems. Jeanette says, I now do the right fore first when I'm fresh. Same on the hinds. Well, it's a fairly good idea if you're not used to it. Absolutely. Foxy says, our track is on moorland and has a double loop. They don't always go the same way around the figure eight. I had loads of loops on mine, and that's, you're quite right. I thought club-footedness was an imbalance that can come and go. It can get worse and it can go away, and it can get worse and it can go away. But I tell you, the worst thing you can do if you have a horse with hello, Marianne, with a club foot, is tell everybody you've got a horse with the club foot, and tell your horse he's got a club foot. Tell anybody who will listen they've got a club foot, because what do? Trim it like you've got a club foot. I don't, but people do. That's what happens. Oh, it's got a club foot, but trim it like it's got a club foot. Jeanette says, how do we ensure that right and left hooves are balanced the same? Measure the heel height. You can measure the caudal heel height, and you can also take lots of photographs, put them up next to each other, get into Canva. It's free. I don't get any commission, and check things, look at them, fade between the two, make sure you're doing the right thing. Julie's here. Hi, my lovely. Patty's here from Uruguay. It's lovely to see you. Okay, so let's get this finished off then. The truth about systemic laminitis. This is the major misconception, and it's a massive one, and it's the one that gets me a lot of hate on social media, is people don't want this to be true. Absolutely don't want this to be true, because the ramifications are too confronting, and it challenges you as a trimmer, as a person, as a professional, as a vet. It really is very challenging, but it is the truth, I'm afraid. And eventually it will come out when everybody actually starts noticing, because they are rehabbing their horse's foot, because you'll find as you go backwards, you see the answer. So it's not about diet causing P3 to rotate or the laminitis stretch. The truth is laminitis is unable to pick favorites. The systemic dysfunction is unable to, or dysfunction is unable to pick favorites. If laminitis was truly systemic, then we'd see it affecting all 4 feet, or at least both front feet. But instead, 1 foot, and usually the right forefoot, that which is typically affected, it tells us that it just is not probable that it's a systemic problem, and that it is incredibly probable it is a hoof care issue. So we start from there. That's where we should be looking at research. That's where we should be starting, right back at the hoof, not getting these peer-reviewed papers that don't even look at the hooves, don't even show you pictures of the hooves, don't even show you x-rays of the hooves. Like, that boring, don't want to talk about that. Just I want to look inside the foot, look at the cells, look at the tissues. Important, I love that, I'm a biologist. But don't forget the hoof capsule. That's the part of the skin system. You need to know about that too. So the systemic explanations, just, it doesn't hold water, does it? Because real systemic conditions, they don't just pick 1 foot, and they don't play favorites. It's not in the playing the favorites game. Because if it was metabolic dysfunction, it would show up equally in all feet. But that's not what we see. And then people will go, well, that's not true because horses are handed and horses lean wet here and lean there. That's rubbish. It's rubbish, honestly. It is, because all you have to do when you see these horses, and I mean, this is why it just drives me mad. A horse, and it's got 1-footed laminitis, and you take photographs of it, you take x-rays of it, and you look inside and you go, oh my God, P3's rotated more in that right foot than it is in the left. Hugely so. In fact, the left looks fine. Look at the hoof capsules. They're not the same. The left heel will be super low if it's normal compared to the right heel. Look at the dorsal wall from the coronary band to the toe, to the ground. It won't be the same. Open our eyes. But peer review papers, research, it's taken you away from that. It's told you not to look at that. Just look at the inside. Why? Well, because there aren't really any drugs on the planet, or at least not as I know, as far as I can tell, that actually will fix a hoof care professional getting the balance wrong. Don't think pharma could actually create a drug at this moment in time that you could just quickly pop in just before you do a trim that makes you a completely balanced trimmer. I don't think they've managed that just yet. They might be trying to, but I don't think they've managed that just yet. However, you can give horses drugs for EMS, for PPID, for problems that are exacerbated without a shadow of a doubt when horses have painful feet, chronic pain. So we need to start rebranding laminitis, giving it a new name. And we think it should be called chronic hoof capsule imbalance. There are enough acronyms in the equine world. I do apologize about that, but I think it should be called CHCI, chronic hoof capsule imbalance. And that is what your horse is suffering from. That is the root of 1-foot laminitis. That is the problem. And that's the real story. Because hoof imbalance is what causes P3 to rotate. I don't care what they say when they go, it's rubbish, it's misinformation, it's dangerous. It's not. And when you start rehabbing horses, you'll see it for yourself. It's about human interference in the balance and human influence in the balance. It gets it wrong. And you cannot remember, I've done thousands and thousands of feet. And I'm pretty switched on, as you might guess, when I'm looking at horses' feet. But even me, I'd probably say that nowadays I could probably tell you within a few mils what's going wrong, because I can remember what the other foot was like, and I've taken photographs just to remind me. But I tell you, most people don't. Most people can't. Most people will trim the left fore, let's say, and when they get to the right fore, they've got no clue what they left the left fore like. And especially if you're doing something like we tell you to do, which is hopefully trim to the hard sole plane, if they're not doing that and they're leaving their heels high and they're taking the toes down and they're taking the walls low, you've not got hope in hell. Not a hope in absolute hell getting it right, or getting them even similar. And when people say, well, this shouldn't be the same, that you trim a foot independently, it's true. But if you see Mother Nature isn't random, they shouldn't be different, or at least not vastly different. So it's a massive problem. That 1 foot starts to get distorted first because we're causing that imbalance, that incorrect trimming. And that it's more difficult for us to maintain balance. We've forgotten what the other side looked like from 1 foot to the other. It's a more distorted foot. And so therefore you make it even more distorted, like the club foot. It becomes more clubbed. And the harder it therefore becomes to maintain the proper balance. And your proper trimming practices as well, they go out the window. People go, oh my God, I don't know what's happening now. He's getting lame on that foot, particularly now he's getting abscesses. I'll just leave the heels more and chop the toes more and try and hope to God that it's going to go right. It doesn't. Hence the reason why I have spent, even while I've been traveling from plane to plane, and even here with my crappy internet, which hopefully is now fixed, why I have been meeting people online to realign and rebalance horses' feet, particularly the right foot, because it's everywhere. And it's my day job now. It's what I do, because people come in all the time and I'm helping them restore internal balance. Not just me. I say it's me because I'm talking to you about me, but it's Gary, it's Asha, it's our training instructors, it's our second-year students, it's our pros. All of it, and even our first-year students are helping people. This is an epidemic, and it isn't starting inside the horse's bloodstream. Okay. So what should we do? What should we do? We should stop blaming diet and just stop it. Just stop going diet. Systemic, terrible, Lindsay. Stop it. Shut up. No, can't be us. Stop it. No. The industry's got to wake up. It's been wrongly telling the world that it's been diet and systemic issues to blame P3 rotation and tearing of the lamina. But the truth is that it's imbalance. And you only have to open your eyes and look. We are building the biggest database the world has ever seen when it comes to hoof measurements. We have lost, honestly, and all the data shows it's all pointing in the same direction, which is hooves are just going out of balance constantly. So we've got to start looking at the hoof instead of blaming systemic issues. We've got to understand the hoof capsule, because correct trimming is all about respecting the natural biomechanics of the hoof. For God's sake, you can't go trimming just because you want to make up that you think, oh, I'll leave a bit more heel to let that sole come up and give that horse a bit more heel. The thing that's going to stimulate the horse's foot is if they are actually physically working with the hoof mechanism and the frog is actually getting some ground contact. If you're leaving the heels higher than the hard sole plane, the heels are underrun. If you're looking at any part of the foot and you're leaving it where it shouldn't be, then you're causing problems, and you will imbalance a horse's foot over time. And this is why when they start with problems, or the problems begin, they can't get on top of them. And then they try all the different shoeing packages and all the composite shoes, lots of different wedging, resecting, tenotomies. They try everything and nothing works. Rock shoes, clogs, people making a fortune out of their patented shoe, and it doesn't work. The failure rate is huge because they're blaming the horse and not looking at the human, because that doesn't bring an awful lot of money in, does it, when you do that? Which makes me feel a bit sad for the equine world, because our equines really do need people to understand that they are at the mercy of us humans who are screwing their feet up constantly. So we need people who understand balance. So we need to promote consistent anatomical hoof care. We need to be consistent with every trim. We need to be balanced in ourselves in every trim. We need to focus on the hoof's anatomy rather than trying to create an artificial look for aesthetics with arbitrary angles. The more we respect natural balance, the more we'll prevent issues like laminitis from happening in the first place. And laminitis doesn't mean to me what it means to most people in the world. Laminitis is caused by imbalance. So today's takeaway. Oh, let me just, before I do that, oh my God, 45 minutes. It's meant to be a mini live challenge. What have I done? It's because nobody's here egging me on. I can do what I like. And I'm in a cupboard. How do we ensure, says Jeanette, that right and left, we talked about that. Georgie says incorrect hoof careitis. No, CHCI is better. Therese says, what do you say to a person who says that the horse only got laminitis in the front feet? Which feet, Therese, are the feet that are usually messed around with most? Just have a think about that. Think about the feet that are easier to muck around with. Think about the hind feet and how a horse doesn't raise the heels on the hind feet as much as they do on the fronts. Think about the different jobs, the pillars and the springs. Think about how much easier it is to screw up front feet and how they mess with front feet more than they do with the hinds. That's where you'll find your answer. Patty says, Lindsay, are you saying the right forehoof, the one easier for us, is the one we leave the worst? No, I'm saying that the one that is the hardest foot is usually the one that is the worst. Okay, so your takeaway today, here is your takeaway. And I think this is super important, isn't it? Because it's a really challenging time. That's Georgia trying to ring me. It's a really challenging time at this moment, as this paradigm shift is filtering its way through the world, and owners are looking to understand the hoof capsule better. Oh, she's still ringing. No, don't keep ringing me, Georgia. Please don't keep ringing me. So here's your takeaway. This happened at the end of yesterday's live, wasn't it, Tim? Ringing me. 1 foot laminitis isn't about the systemic issues. It's not about diet. It's about hoof care. Laminitis, full stop, is, but you can particularly see it in and understand it in 1 foot laminitis, because the real cause of P3 rotation is hoof imbalance, and it's caused by incorrect trimming. And when we respect the natural hoof mechanics, we can reverse it and restore balance to the foot. I don't need special shoes, clogs, rockers. I don't need to do that. I don't need dim material. I don't need to spend a fortune on different types of heart bar shoes. I don't need to do that. I just need a good pair of boots with a good pad in it. And I just, when we're at the beginning, maybe some nappies at the start, if we've got some penetration, that's all we need. And good balance and persistent balance, and trim regularly while we're rehabbing. So here's your challenge for today. Here's your mini challenge. Take a look. Go and have a look. Look in the Phoenix group. Look around you. Look at your own horse's feet. Are they looking similar, or is 1 foot looking like it's got a higher heel than the other? What are the parameters of your horse's feet? Look at them, fronts and backs. And how can you start applying the principles of natural hoof care and natural balance to avoid all of these issues in the future? Because they can be. The good news is it can be avoided. The bad news is most people don't know how to avoid it. All right. Thank you for joining me on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. Yes. I'm going to get out of my cupboard now. I'm going to phone Georgia and see what she wants. And then I'm going to carry on editing, because I've got a lesson that I need to have up in the school tomorrow. So I'll say goodbye. I've chatted on for 50 minutes. That's dreadful. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye. Love you all. Take care. All the best. Bye.